Okay, so we'll start. So those who are unable to join, maybe they can watch the recording itself. So today I will be talking about population ecology. So before we move ahead, let's see what is this. Okay. So what a population is? Population is a group of individuals of the same species which live together in one geographical area at the same time. So there are two important points one needs to remember here is that the organism or the individuals has to be the same species. So let's say, and the second point is a geographical location. So let's say we want to say that what is the population of cows in Jaipur, or maybe what is the population of snakes in Sivraj campus. So now those snakes, they have to be of the same species. As all of you might be aware that snakes are of different species. So once we identify, let's say you might have seen that some of the snakes, they are usually the cobra variety is more prominent in that Sivraj whereabouts. So all the snakes which are belonging to the same species, they can be counted, and we can define the Sivraj campus. So we have a specific boundary. So all the organisms, all the snakes which are living inside the boundary, they can be counted as a single population. And also it has to be at the same time. So you might be aware that the population census is usually done every 10 years for humans. So it was done in 2011 and it was done in 2000. So it will be done in 2021 now. So after every 10 years, the population census is being done. So government organizes a big procedure where all the individuals living in a specific colony or in a specific house are identified. So let's say, for instance, if somebody has moved to a different location, let's say parents are living in Ajmer or Jaipur, and their kids manage to find a job in Delhi or maybe Mumbai or Bangalore. So when the population census is being done, then the kids who are living or have a permanent residence in different cities, they are counted as a residents of that particular city. So they are counted into the population of that city or into that state. So geographical location or geographical area is one important criteria. So to study the populations, there has to be specific points which needs to be considered. So first of all, the species needs to be identified. Now, if you look at bigger organisms, bigger individuals, it's a little bit easy. So let's say we want to identify how many trees are there in Sivraj campus. So it's easy. So, and if you want to identify snakes, peacocks, that's quite easy. But what about the insects? You know, insects, they can migrate inside or they can move outside the campus, or it is really difficult to identify their species. They are so closely related that one takes a lot of time to identify, and in that time it is quite possible that they move in or out. So second point that one need to ponder upon is that to decide what an individual population is. So if the plants or the animals, they are distinct, one can easily identify. But let's imagine in case of fern. So it's really difficult that these ferns, they are spread all over the areas. So if you are going to identify fern population in the mountain areas, it's really difficult. You cannot identify where is one single species. They are kind of spread all over that particular area. And also the geographical area for a study. So let's say we have identified Sivraj campus as one area, and we would like to study the bird population. So now the bird population, it's really difficult. They may fly outside the campus at times, and they may fly inside the campus at times. So now it depends when to count. So those birds, they will be counted inside the campus or they will be counted outside the university campus. So geographical area has to be identified, and at times it is a little bit cumbersome task to identify what that particular geographical area is. Fourth point is the length of time. So length of time which is required to investigate is also very important. There are a couple of insects. Let's say you might have seen in rainy season, there's one insect which is called as a mayfly that is very prominent. So when it rains and you see that in the evening, there are a lot of flies on the lights, on different light sources. These flies are there. And the next morning you see that there's a lot of debris of the wings and these insects, they die and crawl. So they have a lifespan of only 1 day. So they kind of mature and die in that 24 hours only. In one single day, they mature and die. So if we want to investigate the population of those flies, then we need to undergo or take that study within that lifespan of that particular bird. Oh, sorry, that insect. It's not possible that that particular study is done in 2 days, 5 days, or 10 days because the population will be changing. So now here I would like to introduce another word which is called meta population. So it is a network of populations with occasional movement between them. So what does it mean? That it means that there are a lot of people who are, let's say, living in one city and they keep on moving to another city. So you might have noticed that in bigger cities or in metros, there are a lot of people who come in the afternoon or let's say in the morning hours around 9 or 10 to work. They stay for the whole day and the evening they again go back. So if we do the population census, if we count the people in the daytime, so they will be counted in the Delhi or Mumbai area. And if this counting is done in the evening or the night hours, they are at the different cities. The similar kind of thing could be possible for the birds or insects. So there are different kind of bird sanctuaries. There's one in Rajasthan itself, which is called Kevla Dev Bird Sanctuary. So it's in Bharatpur, which is very close to Rajasthan Agra border. So you might be aware that different kind of cranes, the Siberian cranes, they move or they migrate to that particular sanctuary. And that migration is being done in the winters. So if the counting is being done for those cranes in winters, then they will be counted in the Rajasthan or in that particular sanctuary. However, if that particular counting is done in later part of the year, they will be counted to the different areas from they have come. So in a way, that could be called as a meta population, which are moving in and out. So this particular meta population is better in case of extinction. Population may be reestablished by colonization from surviving populations. So what is the advantage? The advantage is, let's say the Siberian cranes, they have come to India. They are in Bharatpur Bird Sanctuary and now suddenly there is some fire broke up in the Siberia. So in that particular area, all the birds which were left, they will be dying. So now these birds, they can again go back and they can survive there. And they can again rejuvenate their population. The similar kind of thing could be possible for the plants as well. So some plants which are, let's say, growing in the mountain areas, and if some of their seeds or some of their saplings, they are taken to, let's say, some plain areas, let's say UP, Rajasthan or Haryana areas. So they may be cultured in nurseries or maybe in some farms. And now suddenly there's a fire broke up in the mountain area. So all the trees, all the plants which were in that particular area, they would be burned out and the whole region will be destroyed. Now the meta population or the plants which have been moved to different areas, they can be brought back and the whole population can be re-established. So in a way, meta population is kind of a survival strategy. It can re-establish the populations. Okay, so now here is the another term which is called the population density. So what is that population density? So it is the result of an interplay between process that add individuals to a population and those that remove individuals. So if we say that in a specific area, the population density is high, or in a specific area, the population density is low. So what does it mean? That population density high means that there are a lot of individuals living in that particular area. And if we say low population density, it means there are less people living into that particular area. So now this population density is depending upon the number of individuals moving in or moving out. Now here we have two different terms. One is the immigration, another one is the emigration. So immigration is the influx of new individuals from other areas. So nowadays we see that a lot of students, especially those who have completed their masters, they would like to go for PhD to different areas. Let's say somebody would like to go to NCBA, some would like to go to ISC, some would like to go to IIT. So in a way we can say they are immigrating from their towns, from their small college or universities to the bigger institute, to the bigger cities. So similarly, there are some other students, they would like to move to, let's say, US or Europe for pursuing their PhD. And maybe after doing their degree, they can again move back to India. So that is called immigration. So that immigration is increasing the population of that particular city where students are going for their PhD program or master's program. Now, emigration, it is the movement of individuals out of a population. So if we look from that city perspective, from where the students have moved out, so there we call it emigration. So look at this particular picture here. So here we have two different points here, birth and the immigration. So for an individual population to increase, birth and immigration are there. So birth means there is increase in the number of population of particular individual. So that will add on, and also if the individuals move into that particular area, then again the population will increase. Now there are two different reasons, which is called the death and the emigration. So either these, let's say in this particular picture, if some of the birds, they move to different areas. So you might have seen that birds, they lay eggs, and from those eggs, the young chicks, they come out. So once they are matured enough, they would like to move on their own. They move to different areas or different locations, which is called the emigration. So their population in that particular area will be decreased. Or if these small birds are predated by bigger birds, they are eaten by vultures, they are eaten by eagles. So both of these instances will lead to decrease in the population. So from this particular slide, one need to remember that birth and immigration leads to increase in the number. Death and emigration leads to decrease in the number. So if the gains due to birth and immigration of individuals are equal to the loss due to death and immigration, so we can say that birth plus immigration is equals to death plus immigration. So it means that the population of that particular species remains the same. The number of individuals in that particular area which is under study remains the same. We can say the population is in equilibrium. If the population gains are greater than loss, so that gains could be either due to more birth or due to emigration. If they are more than the death plus emigration, we can say the population is increasing. Or the population increase reasons could be two, that is birth and immigration. And now in a specific area, if the population losses are greater, then we can say that birth plus immigration is less than the death plus immigration. So if a population which is being studied is going down, then two different reasons can be cited. One is death, another could be immigration. So either the population is dying or they are moving out. So now this kind of theory is true for, let's say, animals, birds, or insects. How about the plants? So even in the plants, immigration and emigration is not possible. They are kind of fixed at that particular area. So there two points needs to consider, which is the birth and the death. So if, let's say, the environmental conditions are conducive, the availability of moisture, water, and soil is there. So it means more and more seeds will be germinating, more and more trees or more and more plants will be there. And if the conditions are not conducive, it means the plants, they will not have seeds, they will not have more fruits, they will the seeds will not be able to grow. So it means what? That the population will go down. Now, let's say in case of long-lived organisms, nearly all the young will die before they are mature. So nowadays, you might have heard about India that we are the youngest nation, or we have a huge number of people who are young. So we are one of the youngest nation in the world. So what does it mean? It means that the young population is more in India as compared to other countries. Let's say Japan. So Japan, the survival rate is usually people live 90, 95. So there, the older people are more. However, in India, the people who are, let's say, from 18 to 45 or 18 to 50, they are more. So if we study organisms, let's say elephants or turtles who have a lifespan of 100 or 200 years, so it is quite possible that they have less youngs. So the youngs, they will mature till they become adults. Their young generations will die. So there will be a kind of gap between the maturation and the end of the matured people. So they will be either young or they will be either old ones at the time. So the mature population or the adult population or the young generation would be missing. Okay, so next the point is dispersal of organisms. So organisms that leave one population and join another are said to have dispersed. So plants, they are dispersed by seeds or the spores. So that's one typical example. So there are a lot of criteria or a lot of factors. So amongst them, environmental and the social factors, they influence the spacing of individuals in a populations. So you might have seen that all the trees or the plants who are bearing fruits, so those fruits, they facilitate the dispersal of seeds. Some of the plants, they have modifications where their seeds have, they are very small, very light, and they may have some wing-like structures, so that whenever the wind is there or air is there, they may be carried away. So in a way, these kind of adaptations into the plant seeds so that they can easily be dispersed. Now this, we can have different kind of dispersion. So this is one typical example of clumped, another one is the uniform, and this one is the random. So in a clumped dispersion, individuals aggregate in patches. So it is quite possible that if the organisms are moving from one place to another, so they may grow in clumps. So let's say, for instance, you might have seen that the water is flowing in a river. So very close to the river beds, there are stones. So in those stones, you see that there are different variety of alga or some fungus. So these alga or some cyanobacteria or some fungus, they are growing at some places while they are not growing at other places. So that kind of dispersion is the clumped distribution. So second one is the uniform one. So this club dispersion, it is influenced by resource availability and the behavior of the organism. So by resource availability means that, let's say if we talk of the cyanobacteria or the alga, it will depend on the availability of water or upon the availability of the space and sunlight. So they will only be surviving or they will only be growing into those areas where is this abundance of sunlight and water. And also it depends what kind of behavior of organisms is. Let's say, for example, in this particular slide, here you are seeing starfishes. So these starfishes, they are going in clumps here. So here in the other areas, they are not spread. So second is the uniform, in which individuals are evenly distributed. So this was a typical example here. You can see there are a lot of penguins. So they are evenly distributed here. So this kind of distribution may be influenced by social interactions such as territoriality. So territoriality means that you might have heard about lions or tigers. So when they grow up, they would like to define their own territory. They won't allow another tiger or lion to come into their territory in that particular area. So there will be a fight between the young lions. So one or two lions, they will be left and another will be killed. So it means that they have defined those territory that only one tiger or one lion will be in that particular area. Others, either they'll move or they will be attacked by the strong ones. So usually, the organisms, they defend those areas or they may feel comfortable into that particular areas. Third one is the random distribution. So this last one, this particular one, this is the random distribution. You can see there's a random distribution of flowers. Here you see it's more dense. Here you see it's not so dense. Even the trees here, they are growing here, but here there are no trees. So this particular behavior is kind of independent of other individuals. So it is quite possible that other environmental factors, they may dictate their behavior. So this random distribution occur in absence of strong attraction or repulsions. So there are no environmental factors that could force them to come together or stay apart. Let's say, for example, if there are a small group of, let's say, deer, they are introduced in a forest. So they would like to stay together so that they are not being hunted. However, bigger animals, let's say lion or tiger, if they are introduced in a forest, there is no fear of being attacked. So they may not live together. They may be spreading in different areas. Okay, so now we'll come about the dormancy. So seeds, they can lie in soil without germinating for years. Now this particular situation is called dormancy. And those seeds, they are called as dormant seeds. So it is a kind of method to survive the adverse conditions. So until unless ideal conditions are available, let's say for example, availability of optimum temperature, moisture, sunlight. So until that is available, these seeds, they will not grow. So the store of seed in the soil is called as the seed bank. So it is possible that the seeds, they may lie as dormant seeds in the soil. So you might have noticed that when that during the uh, winters or especially during the summer season, the vegetation is quite low. Only bigger trees, they survive. And as soon as the rainy season comes, so within a week or two, you'll see a lot of new small green plants has come up. So some of them, they could survive throughout that 2-3 months of rainy season. They may become bigger plants or bigger trees. Another, they just die. And again, they leave their seeds. So those seeds, they will be stored in the soil for the another next rainy season to come. So there's another characteristic also, that seeds, they germinate on disturbed patch of soil. So what does it mean? So it means that in those particular areas where the soil level is disturbed. So now that disturbance could be because of many reasons. So one of the reasons is rainy season, water, availability of water. So when the water is available, that particular patch is disturbed and the seeds will germinate. So this dormancy can be broken by environmental features such as temperature, carbon dioxide, or water. So when these are available, the seed dormancy is ended and the seeds will grow. So dormancy in seeds is important for survival of plant population in case of some disaster. So what are the some of the disasters? Let's say suddenly a fire broke up in a area. So in that specific area, those plants, those trees which were growing, they will be burned out. However, their seeds which are deeply embedded inside the soil or which were lying beneath a fine layer of soil, they will survive. And once the rainy season comes or the water is being provided to that particular area, those seeds, they'll again grow up. So that is one of the reasons that different forest areas, they may be burned at some point in summers. And after a couple of years, again, those areas have matured trees. They again forest. So deforestation followed by forest. So those deforestation was because of some kind of environmental issues, some kind of environmental disasters. So these seed bank, they regulate population size under normal conditions. So normal condition is what? That during rainy season, the plants come up, and by end of, let's say, winter or onset of summer, so those plants, they die and they spread their seeds. So those are the normal conditions. Now, until unless they are very typical environmental disasters, let's say some volcanic eruption has taken place, or some fire, or some very drought kind of conditions taken place, these dormant seeds, they will survive, and next year again we'll have the same kind of plants and trees. So how the population are being studied? So demography is the study of the vital statistics of a population and how they change over time. So this demographic, so we call as demographical studies going on in a particular area. So what does it mean? That in that particular area, researchers or specific people, they are doing counting of, let's say, trees, plants, or even animals and birds. And they would also like to investigate that over time, what is happening with those birds. So how do we know that the Siberian cranes, they come to that Keladev bird sanctuary in Rajasthan, that people have studied or people have observed them over time. So they are seen here in winters, but not in summers. So that's the reason that we know that they come in that particular areas. So death rate and birth rate, they are of particular interest to demographers. So in order to study a population, the people who are doing this demography, they are called demographers. So they are more keen about the birth and the death. So usually this metapopulation concept or the immigration and emigration are less. So now these immigration and emigration, which are less, they influence these factors less. The more influencing parameters are the birth and the death rates. So that's the reason more and more people, they are interested into these kind of parameters. So if there is more birth, it means the population will increase. If there are more death, then the population will decrease. And if they are in equilibrium, it means there will be no change in the population. So the aim of demographic study is to quantify population by finding out the number of birth, death, immigrants and emigrants. So demographer, they would like to play with the numbers. They would like to know what is the trend of the population in that particular area. So depending on now, let's say if we are doing the population census counting of humans in a specific area, now we can project, let's say 5 years down the lane, what would be the number of individuals living in a city or in a very small town. So accordingly, what we can do is that we can devise what should be the availability of water, how we need to manage electricity, and how about the availability of the food. So those kind of necessary requirements and even the medical and the education features, they can also be designed according to these population numbers. So the sum can be represented by this particular formula. So NT plus 1 equals to NT plus birth plus emigration minus death minus immigration. So this NT plus 1, it is a new population, and this is the original population. So this NT, which is a original population, this is being increased or added upon by the birth and the immigration. And two factors, death and immigration, they will be kind of reducing it. So this original population will at some time point, let's say after 2 months or after 3 months, which becomes T plus 1. So this is what the number will be after 2 or 3 months, considering into account the birth, immigration, death and immigration. So that's a new formula that people would like to know, or the demographers would like to know. So in most cases it is impractical or impossible to count all individuals in a population. In humans it is possible, however in plants and animals this is not possible. So now we have a sampling can be done to estimate the density of population size. Now there are different kind of methods here. So how the sampling can be done? Let's say for example, we want to count the population of let's say elephants, or let's say snakes in a particular area. So what we do is that we take sample at different locations. So after taking, let's say we count 50 or 100 individuals at a place and let them again leave. Okay, so they go and they mix with their original population. Then we again count in that particular area. So now this one of the methods is called the mark and recapture method, or we can call it the Lincoln index. So scientists, they capture, tag and release a random population of individuals in a population. So what they usually do is, let's say if they would like to count the deers, they will randomly capture 50 or 100 deers. So those deers, they will be tagged. Now nowadays we have different kind of tags. So you might have seen in towns or nearby areas that even the cows and buffaloes, they have some kind of tagging in their ears. So it's kind of a tag which can easily be read by some electronic devices. So the similar kind of tags are possible for the animal studies in the forest areas. So now these marked individuals, they are given time to mix back into the population. So after, let's say 2 days or 4 days, when it is expected, they'll go back to, let's say that population of 5 or 10 kilometer areas. Now again, we'll capture. So the scientists capture a second sample of population, which is N, and note how many they were marked, which is X, and the population size is estimated by N. So N is equals to Sn by X. So S was the sample, N was the second number, and X is the marked one. So let's say this is one typical example. So on day one, so these 10 turtles, they were captured. So they were marked, and again, so they were given some days. So they were given some days to distribute. Now again on day 2, they were again 10 were captured. So amongst 10, we can see that 5 they were marked. So if we imply this particular formula here, then we can calculate the population of that particular area. So what that particular population is, the total number of individuals are in that particular area is 20. Similarly, we can count the population in a bigger area as well. Okay, so this Lincoln index makes several assumptions that must be met if the estimate is to be accurate. Now, what are those assumptions? That the population must be closed. So population must be closed means that there should be no immigration or emigration. So let's say a closed population in case of this example, in case of turtles, is a pond or a river. So it means that the turtles, they will be living in that particular pond itself. If river, then the area should be closed. If they are moving from one pond to another, it means the purpose will be difficult. So we have marked 5 or 10, 20 or 10 individuals. Now 5 of them, they have moved out. So next time when we take samples, so less number will be there. The time between sample must be small compared to lifespan of the individuals. Now this is very important. So if the lifespan of individuals is 10 days and we are doing sampling in 15 or 20 days, it means the individuals which were already marked, they would have died. So if we would like to study, then we need to identify the lifespan. So if the lifespan is, let's say 10 years, we can do sampling in couple of days, couple of months, that will be fine. If the lifespan is 2 days, we can do sampling in 1 day. We cannot do it on 3 or 4 days. So the marked individuals must mix completely with the rest of the population during the time between sampling. Now this is one important criteria. So until unless the individuals are mixing with the population uniformly, there is no point on taking samples. Let's say we have taken sample at point A in, let's say, forest area, and now we are taking samples as point B. So those individuals are marked, they are not evenly spread. So we will end up taking new individuals. There will be no marked individuals. There will be no recapture. So we will be capturing only new individuals. So these 3 points needs to be considered, these to be pondered whenever we would like to do this mark and recapture method or the Lincoln index for population counting. So the time is about to end, so we'll stop here. So if you have any doubts, we can quickly take 1 or 2 questions. Okay, so if you don't have any doubts, then probably we'll stop here and we'll continue on Tuesday at 10:30. So you can use the same link for the class. So thank you very much for your time. Thank you.